Hey everyone, welcome back. Day 2. Hope everyone's still with us. No one lost or got lost on the first day, so that we can keep moving forward. So welcome back. Okay, so today we're going to get into something a little bit more serious, and that's talking about keto itself, what it is, and some of the things that will be commonly discussed as we go through the next 2 weeks. So we're talking a bit about macros and also some of the things that we'll be encountering as we go along, and getting ourselves prepared. So big thing today is really about preparation, because preparation is really, for me, one of the really key ingredients to people being successful with keto. And I see it so many times that the people who are in this mindset and got themselves organized are the ones who achieve. So we'll be talking about that as well. So what I didn't want to do with this program was get too deep into the science and get too deep into the technical elements of keto, all of the different, medical aspects of it. This is really about a practical guide, how to actually just achieve. And if you really want to get into the more, scientific elements of what keto is all about, then there is tons of information online. And I don't think it's necessarily going to be the best use of our time. So this is really a guide to getting success with keto, as opposed to an in-depth, study of what it is and what it's about. But there are a few important elements that we need to understand in order to be successful. And also, as I said, there'll be some terminology that you hear frequently. And I just wanted to sort of try and get that sort of on the table, and we can address it. And, then when people are talking about it, you understand what it is. You may already understand what it is. So if you're already in that situation, then my apologies for going over the same ground. But, it's really critical that we are, talking the same language here. So in terms of keto itself, basically what we're doing is, instead of using carbohydrates, which is sort of the standard Western diet, has become very heavily based on on carbohydrates for our input into our bodies, we're going to be fueling our body with ketones. So, it's a big change, and what happens is we start to decrease our intake of carbohydrates, is that the body starts to go into a little bit of a state of shock, and it's looking for other things. Now, the upside of that is that it starts to use the ketones as fuel, which is great, because that's what we're going to look to achieve over the next couple of weeks, and start to actually refuel our bodies and become fat burning machines. So instead of using the carbohydrates that are in our bodies, we're going to be using the our fat stores as our energy source. So that's really the name of the game when it comes to keto, and so that's really the critical thing to understand, and that's why it can be so effective for fat loss. The other thing, though, that's really important is that it's not just about a weight loss program. And you've probably seen and heard many people talk about the fact that when they start to have some success with keto, it's also about their mental clarity, their energy levels, things like their skin becomes more clear. They can get reduction in things like anxiety. They can also have much improved levels in their blood readings. So particularly interesting for people who have had or are experiencing issues with diabetes or type 2 diabetes. Keto can be a really powerful way of tackling those things. So there's great benefits outside of just the fact that you're burning fat and using that as your fuel source. So that's a great thing. But what we're going to do is really address the practical steps of how we get to that point, as opposed to actually going into the science of why that's the case. When we're eating carbohydrates, we're spiking our insulin levels, and that causes a series of things within our bodies which can cause fat storage. So we're going to try and reverse that, get into a point where we're actually starting to burn fat, not store fat. Okay, and that's why it's important that when we're eating a good balance of food that are keto friendly. So it's I guess it's like everything with your body, it's a balance. So we're going to try and really look at ways we can get that balance right for ourselves, and that can vary a little bit by individual, but it's all about getting the basics right so we can achieve. One of the things that can be a really nice side benefit of going to keto, aside from the things I mentioned before, is that carbohydrates can actually cause inflammation, and it's a very common cause of inflammation. And one of the things that happens quite frequently for people as they go to keto is that they start to see a rapid amount of weight loss, and often that comes from a really just a reduction in fluid retention. So the inflammation is causing you to store fluid or water in your joints and other things. So not only can you see a rapid weight loss very quickly, but also you will see improvement in things like, you feel freer, you may not have the same effects of arthritis or other things like that. So certainly something to be aware of. And although you're not experiencing necessarily huge fat loss very quickly, you may well be experiencing that fluid loss, or the end of the fluid retention that was being caused by the carbohydrate heavy diet. So just something to be aware of. And so a lot of people say, I was losing weight so quickly and then it suddenly slowed down. Quite often that first initial loss of weight is actually the fluid. So that's still a great thing, because the inflammation going down and losing that fluid is still a great thing, but just something to be aware of, because it's about setting your expectations. And if you have the expectation that your weight loss or your journey will be very linear, just I keep on losing at this rate the whole time, you don't want to set yourself up for disappointment. So it's just something to really be aware of. And I say it's still a great thing, but just something to have in your mind. The other thing that I just want to talk about, and again, it's a term you'll hear a lot, and you'll see it a lot around the group. You'll hear it a lot. Anything talking about keto is macros. So again, many of you may already be familiar, but if you're not, macros is really just a term for the ratio of fat, protein, and carbohydrates that you've got in your diet. And so that ratio is just known as your macro or macronutrients. So when people are talking about that, don't feel intimidated or anything like that. They're just talking about that. Other people will talk about calories. And just for the sake of this course, just so you know, we're not really going to focus on the amount of calories we're consuming. If we get our macros, or our balance of fat, protein, and carbohydrates right when we're eating, and if we're using Carb Manager to actually show where we're going there, the calories should really take care of itself. Now, not to say that calories aren't important, they are, but it's not something we're going to focus on in this course. And again, it's trying to keep it simple. But as I said, if you are meeting your daily macro goals, then the calories should take care of themselves. And at this stage in this process, which is the early stage, we're really not going to focus too much on calories. So if you're wondering why I'm not talking about that, that's the case. Again, if you have questions about that, feel free to let me know. But just so you know, and again, just over the course of the weeks, we'll be talking more about our fat, protein, and carbs, not about our calories during the course of the week. And the last thing really is, I guess, a major topic for today is preparation. So I know for me personally, I am a creature of habit, and I know talking to many other people who've had success with keto, that they would credit preparation as being their number one tool to actually be successful. So many people, they're fine when they've got the right foods around. They're quite happy to eat it, because the great thing with keto is that it is so many fantastic, very tasty foods you can have, and we'll be talking about that over the next couple of days. But it's really when you get caught out, you suddenly feel a bit hungry after dinner, and you've got that bowl of snacks, or there's a soda in the fridge, or you find some Cheezels, or you're out for dinner and there's a big bowl of fries. It's really about preparing yourself to be in a situation where when you are ready to eat, you are ready to eat, and there's food available that is actually keto friendly. So upping our opportunity to have that right food available at the right time is really a key ingredient of making this all work. So we're going to share a few tips about that, and there'll be a few interspersed over the next couple of weeks as well. But today is really about doing a couple of very basic things. We will be, as I said, sharing about what you should be buying. So tomorrow I'll be going through what type of foods are great for your shopping list. And also we'll be talking about where to source the right recipes. We have some in the group, but also what I really would like to be able to do is share with you how to be successful in finding the type of foods that you like specifically. Because sharing recipes is great, but it's really about finding the foods that you like personally, and we'll be sharing some really good ways to do that. Okay, but when it comes to shopping, getting the things here in our house that are ready for us to eat, Doing a bit of food preparation if possible is great as well, but really just having the ingredients around is a really good start. And the second one, if at all possible, and particularly, I know it's not always possible if you have people in the house who are not following the same way of eating, but getting the things out of your house which are not keto friendly, so that when you have that moment of weakness, you're not tempted. Okay, so that brings us into our action items for today. So first one, when it comes to preparation, the first thing you can do, you can start now, is start to find the things in the cupboards or in your pantry which are not going to be keto friendly. So, okay, we may be talking a little bit more about what some of those things are and aren't, but you'll probably know some of them just straight away. So there'll be the chocolate, the chips, the cookies, the soft drinks, the sodas, all those type of things. Really try and, if you're really going to be, committed to it and full on and ready to go, and if there's no one else in the house, perhaps just put them into a food parcel and give them to someone, or just throw them in the bin, whatever. But really try and identify, get them out of the house. In the best case, like what I do at home, there's other people in the house here, so my family, not everyone's doing keto, so I have like a little section of my cupboard where I have all my food, and also a section in the fridge where I keep it as well. So it just means that when I go to the fridge, that's where I go to. It's got my stuff and it's ready to go. Not seeing the chocolate and the chips and all the other things in front of you is a great start in the first place. As you go along and as you get more used to it, what you'll find is that the great thing is that your cravings for those things will decrease. You won't feel as much like that's what you want to eat. You'll want to feel more like you want to eat the keto-friendly foods anyway. But in that short term, so many people come across or stumble on the fact that there's some food available which is just that tempting. I've got to have it. So just put yourself in a situation where you're not, that's not in front of you. If you're going out for a meal, think about, okay, I'm going to this particular restaurant. What type of thing will they have on the menu that's keto friendly? So look for the right things. Most people, a lot of restaurants now have menus online, so you can pre-plan what you're going to eat. And we'll also be sharing a few things for the more fast food based restaurants, and again that'll be later in the week. Just the type of options that they have. So a lot of the the burger places now, they'll have options for burgers with lettuce wraps instead of bread and things like that. So making good decisions more often than not will ultimately lead to you being successful. So clear out the cupboards. Second one is we're going to tomorrow start talking about the dreaded keto flu and how we can head it off. We're going to really put ourselves in the best chance of not getting it at all. So if you don't already have it in your pantry, try and get some apple cider vinegar and some pink rock salt. They're two great things to have around. If you are not a fan of apple cider vinegar, try getting some pickle juice or some Powerade Zero is another good option. But try and get those into the house, because we're going to really try and tackle those through upping our electrolytes. And again, we'll talk about that more tomorrow as we go into the next phase. But that's something to do, is to get the apple cider vinegar, pink rock salt, and as I said, pickle juice or Powerade Zero if you feel as well. And then the last one may not be for everyone and may not be possible for everyone, but one of the ways to be really good and successful with keto is also to try and get that little bit of extra sleep. Now, if you're getting plenty of sleep a night, 7 or 8 hours, then it does not apply to you. But for many of us, we're operating on a lot less sleep than that. So if you're operating on less than 7 hours sleep a night, try and squeeze out somehow that extra half an hour. It's maybe a little bit impractical to say an extra hour, but if you can get that little bit extra sleep, that will also help your chances with keto, because reduces your anxiety levels, reduces your stress levels, and with that, your chances of being successful with keto will be increased as well. So that's our 3 action items for today. So clear out those cupboards, get the ingredients for the keto flu busting electrolytes, and get that extra half an hour sleep if you can. All right. So that's it for today. We'll be back with the questions later on, and speak to you later. Have a good day.